and we've actually helped Americans that went down to Cuenca years ago that left because, my gosh, I can't afford it. They get touted so much by all these groups that it just starts getting so popular at some point that things start reversing. It's like when you have one piece of cake on your birthday, it tastes good, it's great. You have a second piece, it was so good, and you enjoy that, and it's like, wow, that was a lot. But then when you have a third piece, a fourth piece, and a fifth piece, which I've done that. I've ate 12 donuts when I was 18 in one sitting on the same day. You know. Choose Ecuador if we had to do it all over again for our retire early lifestyle. Why I would choose Panama City to live in over Cuenca, Ecuador. Now, this is you're on the other side of the pond effect on some of these, meaning that you're going to hear these things and you're going to go, what? Really? And that's because you live on that side of the pond every day. You don't have the challenges and the issues that are inherent within some of these developing countries. And living with something every single day versus just hearing about it on a video is a whole different world. Number one reason is clean water. Now, we've made videos about clean water, and again, on that side of the pond, you know, you just go to Walmart, put your filter on the tap, and you're done. Panama versus Ecuador, it's really challenging to get clean water, even in Cuenca, regardless of what you hear. And we encourage you to verify and study further and verify the facts. The only thing we tell you is the facts. Otherwise, it's just opinion and conjecture. We don't play that game. So number one would be clean water. And we also don't have the unfortunate stigma of being promoters. We don't get commissions from any real estate companies. We're not hired from any retire abroad media and magazines to promote a country that ultimately promote the real estate. And so it all comes down to the vested interest that we are not. Now, having said all that, let's get to the meat of the video. But for example, this beach, I imagine, looked the same last week, and it looked the same last year, and 10 years ago. It's still the same beach. Now, from one year to the next, maybe there's more people on it or less people, so there are some changes. But for the most part, there are things that just pretty much stay the same and don't really need an update. Having to need an update is one of those cultural things that we've been brainwashed into believing is a good thing, like when Yahoo changes the way its email functions and then you can't stand it, or social media changes. There's this constant tinkering and changing that they do, and all you want to do is just stay with what's working for you. Alright, so what was working for us in Ecuador? Well, as I said, the culture is amazing, the cost of living is amazing. We've always done things as the locals would do them, and for that reason we were very successful at staying. Now, there was a lot of Americans we helped on their way out of Ecuador. Initially they would come down there believing the well-intentioned narrative that they were coming to a cheap country, not realizing that they're just going along with the crowd, following the crowd, And, you know, I mean, who's going to tell you that, you know, rents are too high or cost of living's too high? Are the real estate agents going to tell you? No, they're not going to tell you. Are the property owners going to tell you? No, they're not going to tell you. Are the sellers of anything that invested interest going to tell you? No, nobody's going to tell you. Are the lawyers going to tell you? No. Nobody that has a vested interest is going to say a darn word. You're not going to figure it out till you get there. And we've actually helped Americans that went down to Cuenca years ago that left because, my gosh, I can't afford it. They get touted so much by all these groups that it just starts getting so popular at some point that things start reversing. It's like when you have one piece of cake on your birthday, it tastes good, it's great. You have a second piece, it was so good, and you enjoy that. It's like, wow, that was a lot. But then when you have a third piece, a fourth piece, and a fifth piece, which I've done that. I've ate 12 donuts when I was 18 in one sitting on the same day. You know, you get to a point where things start reversing, and what you're getting out of it, there's more drawback to what you're doing than there was before. And so there's a ratio there that says that when there's a lot of promotion and a lot of crowds, and that's what happened to Ecuador on several occasions, and it's in the middle of doing that right now. And it's amazing because it's like every couple of years or every year, there's just like a whole new crowd of video promoters and this and that. And so it's not a new idea to people on our channel, longtime subscribers on our channel, that we've been well outspoken about this subject. And it's one of those things that you don't initially, nobody had any idea that going abroad or going to Ecuador had this pressure point in it that would totally change. And it's not, I mean, we stayed in the same house for $250 a month, which we've showcased many times. Decent, comfortable, practical housing. You know, I wouldn't call it super high-end luxury, but it wasn't low class either. It was a, you know, middle income, practical, clean, usable housing. And we made it a home by doing little things to it to make it enjoyable. And it was $250 a month. And it was by the river, and all of that was by accident. But you know, you get these crowds coming in, and they're all so demanding, and it just makes everything different than it was before. So yes, I'm focusing on that so much because it's a huge part of going abroad that you don't really have an insight into. And you could try to tell people, but there's so many new crowds. It's like with every new plane load of people, if they haven't seen it, and then, as I said in previous videos, a lot of people don't really want to hear. They won't allow anything to come through that doesn't validate their decision. And so, but if that wasn't there, let's do this hypothetical. If this crowd mentality and this promotion wasn't there, would we do Ecuador again? Well, again, long-time followers know that we've had lots of challenges, and because of the environment. And we absolutely, I mean, it's a two-edged sword. We absolutely love the weather, you know, and the scenery of the Andes is totally just beautiful, and the peacefulness of it, peacefulness of the people, and just being able to walk. But there's so much other things to consider, and a lot of people on our channel know, and we were vocal about, and we were very transparent from the early days when we started making our videos. I think it was 2013, wasn't it? Or was it earlier?
Oh, it was right when we got there.
And I think that every place is probably going to have some things that are going to be a challenge, and they aren't little things that you want to be ignoring or sweeping under the rug, because they're things that materially affect the quality of life, such as, you know, an environment being harsh to the extent that it damages your health, and, you know, it just causes you to have a long-term challenges that have to do with health and things like altitude. And we have a link on the blog we started years ago, Discover Cuenca, Ecuador, about the difference between long-term altitude exposure and short-term. And a lot of people have read it and they understand, but most people still to this day don't have a clue what that's about. They still think that getting adjusted to altitude only has to do with when you first land, you know, in a place that's 8,000 or 9,000 or 10,000 feet. And then once you get used to that, they think it's over. And they still don't have any clue to this day. And then there's the last thing, there's the pre-2020 and the post-2020 thing that has to do with the idea of freedom. And a lot of people on the internet will tell you that it's more free over here and it's more free over there. And in a lot of ways, that's correct. But I would say that even though different people draw the line in a different spot in the sand, I would say that there's definitely one definition of freedom that everyone can agree on, and that is that when your freedom of choice is taken away, then your freedom is being taken away, regardless of how great of an idea it sounds. And this is something that a lot of Western cultures have been doing for decades. They've been giving away their freedoms by legitimizing the taking away of options. And the definition of a mandate is when something is being forced on you, and when it's being forced on you, it means that you have no choice, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So it's a loss of freedom, and I don't see how anybody can say that there hasn't been a loss of freedom on a global level. So I hope you got something out of that. Thanks for coming to our channel and have a wonderful day.